All right, welcome back. That was part one. Part two. Right now, we're going to get into a conversation about cultural responsiveness. I just got on my phone and looked it up because I was like, what does that even mean? Am I being culturally responsible right now? What should we be doing to be better citizens on this planet? So, pass it off again to our guest, and we're going to have a conversation. All right. I had to run and use the restroom, but we're back here now. So, let's keep the combo going.
No problem. That's good. All right. So yes, culturally responsive, and what does that mean? And culturally responsive doesn't only apply to education, and that's what a lot of people need to understand. It does apply in businesses. It applies just into day to day, and how we even teach our children to interact with those outside of our culture, or those outside of even our family. And so as an educator and as someone who puts together professional development for teachers as well as organizations, some things to think about is how are you centering and valuing students or people in your organization, and how are you centering those around their identity and their culture. The other way that you can do it is using like rigorous and relevant curriculum. So when we're talking about the curriculum that's being taught to students in any grade, if it's anti-oppressive and using anti-oppressive teaching methods. And so, of course, right now in the world of education, using the word oppression is very, a touchy subject, but it still is a relevant fact because a lot of districts have outsourced, old curriculum that is not updated. And, a lot of even the verbiage and the pictures in the curriculum isn't either relevant to the student or relevant to the times that we're in currently.
Can I ask questions?
Yes, ask questions, please.
Okay. So when you say like taking out terms like oppression, is that like in them describing like American history type of oppression, like like transatlantic slavery and chattel slavery? Like what type of?
Yeah, we could go there. It could be that deep. And it could be something as, relevant, like here in the U.S., schools are built based off of the number of third graders that are failing in state standardized testing. And that is a way to kind of predispose these kids into possibly the jail system. There is a whole school to prison pipeline. That is a whole conversation. And, if anybody hasn't looked up or heard research on that, that is a form of oppression. And it's not necessarily oppressing one group of people, but it is something that happens because you tend to see in certain communities, again, taxes put money into the schools. So if you are in a low income or low economic community, your school is not going to be as your students may be more likely to end up in prison because of those things. And it has like a lot to do with a lot and behavior.
Is that like systemic oppression?
Yes, we could say systemic oppression.
So how do you put systemic oppression in the current curriculum?
So you probably won't.
How do you tell the system to fix what?
Yes. So again, talking systems can be kind of difficult. And again, I'm speaking from an educator's lens. It's not about blaming people currently for what has happened in the past. What needs to happen and what typically happens right now is we constantly have these discussions on what, being insensitive to cultures, or you're not being culturally responsive to certain students, or understanding the communities in which you teach in or in which you work in, and not understanding that really kind of leads to maybe unintentional ways of reacting to children's behavior or interacting with students who kind of think differently. And so when we're talking about curriculum in particular, it is more about representation. And how are people presented and represented in books. And so I'll give you just a straight fact of, most U.S. history books, they talk about Black people from the start of slavery. And we don't start from slavery, and Black culture has kings and queens, like just like every other culture has some type of royalty,
government, monarchs,
all of those things. And, but and from the sense of that term oppression, it's shown to students in school from an early age this is where, we start. And then, you have Egyptians, right? But people in curriculum and just kind of the way it's laid out, Egyptian doesn't even look like it's part of Africa.
It's like right next to the Greeks too.
Right.
And there's a vast thousands of years between those time periods.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, people just want accurate history. It's not about giving visuals about slavery.